You are listening to the serialized audiobook podcast for Blood of the Stars, an epic fantasy novel written by Karyne Norton, read by Paeter Frandsen and Karyne Norton. If you want your own audio copy without interruptions, or if you want a signed physical copy, go to karynnorton.com/shop to get the lowest cost by buying direct. You can also find the audiobook on Audible, Barnes & Noble, and other standard retailers. Please enjoy this final installment of Blood of the Stars by Karyne Norton. Chapter 89. Aura turned to face the moon, relishing the minimal bits of the sun's light reflecting off it. It wasn't enough to heal her, but it gave her comfort. Bright lights flashed in the sky, the start of the stars' descent. They would each have to make several trips after a night like this. It could take all week for them to gather the last of the starlocks, to burn up the last of the bodies. She hobbled her way past Mavis's dead soldiers. Some had starlocks, so the stars would come, but they were likely to stay longer near Jasper's. This was her chance. They'd be angry at Aura's presence, but they wouldn't deny her a chance to speak. Not after tonight. Would they? She sat by Jasper's body, placing a hand over his starlock. She shivered in the night air, desperate for warmth. She would even welcome the fire of a star burning her up, if such a thing were possible. The heat started at her back, tempting her to turn, but she kept her place at Jasper's side, hand wrapped around the solid warmth of the axe-shaped starlock. The star who had given it to him would come to retrieve it, burning up the metal encasing the star's hair and saving the lock of hair for the next chosen progeny. When the heat shifted to a burn, tears stung Aura's eyes, but not because it hurt. It felt like going home. Sheen? The already high voice rose in surprise from behind her. Reyna. Of course, it would be Reyna. Aura turned. I go by Aura now. Reyna's dark skin glowed in the night, a stark contrast to Aura's faded color. When she'd reflected the glory of the sun, she'd had darker skin too, but every year she grew paler. Is that how it would end? Would she simply disappear? Changing your name doesn't change what you did. Reyna frowned, her gaze on Aura's hand, which still clutched the starlock. The star's dark hair only reached her calves. How many starlocks had she given out in the last 1,000 years? I'm not here to discuss the past, Aura said. We need to talk about the future. Reyna stepped forward, holding out her hand. Give me the starlock. Will you listen? I listened to you 1,000 years ago, nearly helped you. Andreas is an outcast because of you. I shouldn't have to remind you what happened to Brighton and Lucien. Aura winced at the sound of Brighton's name on Reyna's lips. It's time for me to fix things. A bitter laugh rang out from Reyna. You mean interfere? You're still interfering? My mere presence is an interference. All of us were interfering when we communed with the people. It wasn't about whether or not we interfered. It was about whether or not we were guided by the sun. Something in Reyna's face shifted, her confidence wavering. Aura stood straighter. You're communing again, aren't you? The vulnerability disappeared, a hardness hiding Reyna's true response. We've chosen a select few. Who is we? Reyna shook her head. We're testing if the people are ready for it, and these ones are. Aura's fingers tightened around the starlock until they felt numb. Everyone is ready for it. Always. There was no reason to stop. Reyna's voice turned cold. You are the reason we stopped. Aura was running out of time. Please, Reyna, I need your help. Where are the other pieces? I'm certain the stone was here recently, but I don't know about the fish or the dagger. If I can find them, if I can reunite them, we can change this. We can save these people and this world. We can right my wrongs. Reyna reached over, her hand wrapping around Aura's until Aura hissed from the heat and let go of the starlock. It dropped into Reyna's other hand, the metal glowing and bubbling until it dripped through her fingers and to the balcony's floor, leaving behind a small curled lock of black hair. Reyna's hair. She tucked the lock in her dress pocket. Aura backed away, knowing what would come next. Reyna wrapped her arms around Jasperus, placing her forehead against his. She whispered words, a soft song, and her skin's glow brightened until Aura could no longer look. She shielded her eyes from both the light and the heat as Reyna's inferno enveloped Jasperus's body. When the heat receded and the glow faded, Aura blinked into the blackness. Dark ash covered her skin. If she'd been a mere human, even a half-light, she would have been burned up in Reyna's glow, like Breve had been, released to the sun along with Jasperus. Instead, she was left alone to mourn all she'd lost. Chapter 90. As night gave way to morning, Aeliana kept watch over her mother and Iris. No one was confident in the tower's stability, so Silmar was determined to evacuate them all once the Winnicks left with the sun's morn. She only agreed after Marnock reassured her the two women could survive the move. She tried not to think about Jasperus and Breve being burned up on the balcony, and, if rumors of that process were true, Aura as well. She tightened her grip on her mother's hand and let her gaze roam over the bodies sprawled throughout the room, all their chests rising and falling with life. Holm sat next to Iris's side of the bed, his head bent by hers and his arm half wrapped around her, somehow aware to be gentle even in his sleep. Kendallin and Lukai slept on the settee, their hands lightly touching in a way that made Aeliana's bond mark tingle, which was silly after all they'd been through. Veldin and Silmar started to stir, even though they'd been the last to succumb to sleep. Their murmurs and plans for the day woke Marnock, who stepped over Karyne and Cyrus. He kneeled next to Thalahan, whose eye was beyond healing, but could still benefit from Marnock's magic. Larkos and Riverin leaned against each other by the wall, as if they'd been keeping watch over the room before falling asleep. Most were awake by the time the sun's light filtered through the window, but everyone sat a little straighter when the balcony door opened and Aura walked through. Larkos broke the silence by swearing. "How did you survive?" Karyne asked. Aura glanced over, but it was like she didn't see or hear him. "We have to find them all. It's the only way." "All the Starbridges?" Karyne asked. She nodded. "All the pieces. We have to reunite them." "What's she talking about?" Silmar asked. Eliana let go of her mother's hand to reach into her pocket and grasp the golden arrow. Aura shuddered, then scanned the room until her searching gaze landed on Eliana. "I'll take Cyrus home," Karyne said, "and then I'll bring it back to you. I swear on the stars." Aura stilled, then nodded. "We can search for the stone while you're gone." Silmar's grunted words left everyone stunned. "How do you know about the stone?" Aura asked. "Stone?" Karyne asked. "Is that the circle? Is that what takes people to Amranis?" Silmar nodded. "Last I saw, it was hidden in that loose stone behind the bed. It's where Mavis always kept it. It's how I knew where the arrow would be. I'd hoped we'd find both." Something in Aura deflated, and Karyne helped her back to the settee, shooing away Kendallin and Lukai. "I suppose there's no reason for us to wait," Cyrus said, but his gaze strayed to Eliana, begging her to change her mind. "You need to check on Bartholom, and if you can find my father—" Her mother stirred on the bed, but her eyes remained closed as a soft moan escaped her lips. Marnock stepped away from Thalahan, shifting his focus to her mother. Riverin twisted his hands. "If you can wait until Gullet returns, I'd like to come with you." "What about your wife?" Karyne asked. Eliana smiled at the genuine concern in his voice. Something had changed between the two men. Larkos stood, pushing off the wall. "Thalahan and I will gather our remaining men, paint Starspeed and give her a new name. We'll get what we can to take care of Riverin's wife and Breeve's mother. Maybe bring them back here if that seems safer." "Can you check on Eric too?" Karyne asked. "Make sure he and the stable boys are taken care of before you leave?" Larkos nodded. They both turned to Eliana, and suddenly everyone was looking at her for direction, as if she were the one in charge. "Does that mean the rest of you will stay?" she asked. "Help my mother rebuild?" "Iris and I won't leave Emerus's side," Holm said. He stood, then inclined his head while touching his fingers to his forehead. It was the same motion the soldiers had done back in the forest, the same she'd seen Garen's men do before him. Kendallin and I will be here as well, Lukai added, making the same motion. It made her squirm. You can't get rid of Silmar and me, even if you want to, Belden said. Thankfully, he shot water from his hand to her face, instead of bowing. Marnock? Eliana asked, nudging his back where he was bent over the bed. I'll stay, if you'll have me, he said, his fingers pressed against her mother's wrist. That sounds good. Uncertainty colored her tone, but the others all stood, dividing as if she'd given orders. Riverin stepped out onto the balcony, whistling for Gullet to return. Silmar took Velden to the stairwell, eager to make sure the Winnocks were gone and to find General Nels for a report. Garen's men followed. Suddenly, everything was happening too fast for Eliana. She thought they'd get a break after Mavis was gone, but it seemed as if it was all just beginning. Mavis. The murmur came from her mother's lips. What? Marnock asked as he and Eliana both leaned in. Her mother's eyes fluttered open. Where is Mavis? Durakin took her, Eliana said. We think she's dead. Her mother frowned, her gaze resting on Marnock, her eyes widening as she reached up to touch his face. It's not possible. Marnock shushed her, bringing her hand back to her side. You sustained several injuries last night. I'm doing my best to heal them, but it's like they keep coming back. We'll figure it out, though. Don't worry. Thank the sun, she murmured. Yes, Marnock agreed. The sun has seen fit to let you live another day. She shook her head. No. Thank the sun you're alive. Marnock's hands stilled, his eyes widening. You know me? Her mother laughed. Of course I know you. Then she paused, taking in his pained expression. Do you not remember me? Eliana, Silmar called through the doorway, competing with Marnock's response. We need you downstairs. She hesitated, watching her mother draw Marnock in closer, placing her palms on his face. I can show you who you are. Her mother and Marnock went so still that it was like magic held them in place. Was this what it had looked like when Garen had given her memories? Eliana! Silmar's voice came louder. Coming! She rushed through the doorway, throwing one last glance back at her mother and Marnock, who were still locked in their strange embrace. Passing through the stairway was like walking through an open graveyard in a jungle, with Aura's vines still clinging to the dead bodies and nearly blocking Eliana's path to the battlement below. But when she got there, her heart leaped in her chest, the horrific journey worth it. Felk stood tall, with Lilac at his side. Before she could process anything more, she was lifted off the ground and into Felk's arms, his sinewy limbs squeezing her tight. You're alive, he said. As I told you, Silmar grumbled as Felk set her down. No other Winnocks were around, which left her relieved, even though she knew she could trust Felk to protect her. How do the Winnocks fare? She asked. Velden snorted. They were fine when we checked on them in the middle of the night. Ravenous, but fine. Felk's face drooped. I'm afraid there's division in their ranks. There are too many of them to get organized, and not enough who stand by the promise I made. I don't think you should go near any of them this cycle. But we found our eggs, Lilac said, her teeth bared as she beamed. We can build a nest, start our own clan. Eliana glanced back at the stairs toward all the goodbyes she was preparing to say. Where will you go? Felk hesitated. We were hoping to stay here. We thought maybe if we nested near you, maybe you could give us memories. Maybe we could build on our cycles instead of forgetting them. We want more for our offspring, Lilac added. That sounds like a Silmar started, but Eliana cut him off. Of course. You'll always be welcome here. This time, it was Lilac who picked Eliana up off the ground, the female Winix's hold just as tight. Thank you, Lilac whispered as she set Eliana down. We'll go get our eggs. There's a courtyard I saw on the east end of the fortress that I think would be perfect. Eliana! Silmar's voice came out in a warning growl, but she ignored him. Make it your home, then, as long as I can come visit. Eliana smiled as they loped across the battlement and disappeared through a door to head below, then turned back to Silmar. Was that all you needed from me? Silmar glared, and Veldin gave her a wink. She headed back up the stairwell, holding her breath as she stepped through the battlegrounds. Before she reached Mavis's rooms, she ran into Marnock, who rushed toward her, his face white with shock. Marnock? She reached a hand out to steady him, but he let out a cry and backed away. He scanned her face like she was a ghost, then shook his head in disbelief. What happened? Did my mother give you your memories? He scrubbed his hands over his face. Too many memories. Eliana's heart sank. Will Silmar think of you as an enemy? Marnock shook his head. No, but I can't stay here. Why not? She reached for his arm, but he pulled away. I just can't. He shook his head and backed away from her, toward the stairs. Please stay, she begged. I'm sure we can work it out. I know we can trust you. I still have so much to learn from you. You're the only one who can seem to show me how to heal. Her words seemed to make him recoil more. I'll come back. There are things I need to do. More questions I need answered. But I promise I'll come back when I'm ready. It wasn't the answer Eliana wanted, but she had no choice as he disappeared down the stairwell. Where would he even go? When she reached Mavis's main room, her mother was sitting up in bed, eating a portion of a broth Kendallin still cooked over the fireplace. The others gathered around the fire, soaking in its warmth and passing around 2 shared bowls to fill their stomachs. Her mother made a face at Eliana before Eliana could even ask the question. It was a lot for him to take in, her mother said. Why? Who is he? An old friend, she said. But he's lost so much. It will be up to him to share his past when he's ready. Riverin stepped in from the balcony, Gullet squawking from his shoulder. I'm ready whenever you are. Garen and Cyrus stood, looking expectantly at Eliana before she remembered the golden arrow still rested in her pocket. She let her fingers wrap around the arrow, sensing its hum. Aura stiffened on the settee, closing her eyes in concentration. Eliana pulled it out, surprised at how hard it was to even consider passing it over. She'd hunted this arrow with her guardians for years, imagined it being the key to her freedom from magic, from their evil. It had been, but not in the way she'd imagined. It had led to so much more. "We'll take good care of it." Cyrus gently pried it from her hand. Then he pulled her in for a hug. "You're more than the magic in your blood, Eliana. You always have been. You get to choose what you make of your magic." She smiled and stepped back. "Make sure you tell your brothers about the warrior priest you've become." Her smile fell. "And tell Bartholomew I'm sorry." "I expect he'll tell me about Aura singing gams to the stars. I doubt he'll feel you have anything to apologize for." He stepped away and stood by Riverin, who gave her the same odd bow and salute as the others earlier. She didn't have time to examine why it bothered her before Garen was wrapping her in his arms. Her bond mark twinged as his hold tightened, every line of their bodies pressed against each other. His lips barely brushed her ear as he whispered his farewell. "I'll come back for you, Daisy." When she pulled away, the loss of his warmth sent a pang through her chest. The intensity in his eyes left her fumbling for the right words. "Bring my father if you can. But either way, come back soon." The tilt of his lips returned, the familiar, secretive smile that made it easier for her to shove him away, back toward Cyrus and Riverin. Cyrus held out the arrow, and all three men touched it. Eliana reached back to steady herself against the bed, and found her mother's hand instead, the comforting squeeze far more solid than the bed's frame. Cyrus uttered the words on the arrow, and the room filled with a blinding light. I hope you enjoyed listening to this final installment of Blood of the Stars by Karyne Norton. While this is the end of Blood of the Stars, Eliana and Garen's story continues in Salt in the Seas. The audiobook is expected to release in fall of 2025, and I'll be sure to post a bonus episode featuring a sneak peek with the first chapters when that time comes. If you can't wait for the audiobook, you can find the ebook, paperback, and hardcover on Amazon. You can also find signed copies and special editions at KarynNorton.com/shop. Thanks so much for listening.